member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. This bill is typical Liberal government legislation. It will make things more difficult for Canadians, for Canadian jobs, and Canadian ports. They get a star, though, for increasing bureaucracy, regulations, and red tape. It's a red star. Red star. That was a symbol, I believe, of a certain country not so long ago. This will not help our ports, and it will lead to more inefficiencies and cost. Association of Canadian Ports says that more government is not the answer, and that's what we're seeing in this bill, is more government. This bill will only add additional regulatory requirements and will add costs to the stakeholders, which is passed on to Canadians. You know, we are an exporting nation, an importing nation. It forms a very important part of our economy. We are being stifled with regulations. So I was looking at a report today, and it was written by the World Bank and S&P Global Market Intelligence in Container Performance Index Ports. That's a long name. But what they do is they analyze ports across the world. They actually analyzed, I believe it was 348 ports. And so what they do is they look at wait times as an indicator of overall efficiency. And what they say is that international trade is very much affected by an efficient or inefficient port. A poorly functioning or inefficient port can hinder growth and have a profound impact. So, I used to be a teacher of social studies. I know a lot of cities, and so I was looking over this list, and a lot of them I knew, and a lot of them I didn't know. But on this list, I saw, for example, Manila was on there, Alexandria in Africa, Freetown, Mogadishu, which is in Somalia, and it's a failed state. Saw ports in Europe, in South America, from all over the world. And it listed Canadian Port of Vancouver. And where would the Canadian Port of Vancouver be on this list of 348 ports, including, as I mentioned, failed states? Number 347 out of 348. 347 out of 348. We're supposed to be a first world nation. This is terrible. It is terrible, and that goes on the lap of the Liberal government, fully. Now, why do I say this? Well, for example, there was a Globe and Mail article in June that said that Canada used to be in the top 10 for ports a decade ago. A decade ago, 10 years ago, after 8 years of this Prime Minister, I think we can put together what has happened in this nation. We have a Liberal government, a Liberal NDP government, I might add, that is crushing our country through bureaucracy, through red tape, through socialism, government control. You know, I'll go door to door, do campaigns and other times, talk to people. I find that some of the people are most receptive, and we get actually very good receptivity from people, my constituency, but it's from Eastern Europe. Why? Because they fled socialist governments and for Canada, for more freedom. And then they come here and they're telling me they're just seeing they're seeing the same trends in Canada under the Liberals and the NDP as they saw in Eastern Europe. During the Cold War, what was kind of a picture we'd see would be long waits at the bread lines. And people would get there early in the morning to wait for product because everything was so slow. It's a byproduct of socialism, crushing government control. And we're seeing some real problems here. We have with the ports, for example, just a long, clogged up port system. We can't get things. The efficiencies are not there. And what the bill is introducing is just more red tape, more inefficiencies. You know, I talked to a German tourist, and I was just disappointed what he told me, because he's been to Canada different times. And what he said, you know, Canada seems to be on the decline economically. He says this doesn't have the same vitality as he used to see in the past. You can thank the Liberals. You can thank the NDP for this. They will blame supply chains. Well, you know, right? This bill could have been addressing supply chains. They don't. They make things worse. They'll blame the war in the Ukraine. Well, there's been wars. There's always wars happening. So enough excuses from the Liberal government. Enough excuses. And stop making it worse on Canadians. There's an expression that says, well, everything he touches turns to gold. Well, with the Liberals, it's quite the opposite. Everything they touch seems to be turning to ashes through their wastefulness and strangling regulations. So CP Rail said this about the bill. They said, after working on this for 4 years, it's a whole bunch of nothing. Well, I think they're actually being complimentary, because it's actually negative. And there is a critical infrastructure project that was on the planned for years, and there was a commitment by CP Rail, Port of Vancouver, and it was led by the Port of Vancouver, and that is the Harbour Authority, I should say, and which is under the control of the federal government. Well, that project has been put on the back burner now, because in 4 years the price has tripled. It's tripled, and it's out of control. And if you look at it, if you look at the increase in costs, it is primarily due to regulations, bureaucracy, assessments, studies. It's not even in the actual building it, and it's made it out of control, taking years to get this project done. I saw a little video clip on X in the Netherlands, and it showed an underpass, which is what we wanted to get done in Pitt Meadows, an underpass that was built in 1 weekend. 1 weekend. If they show all the pictures, we can't get it done in years, let alone 1 weekend. This sort of inefficiencies and regulations is just straggling us, and it's impacting cost of living and inflation. And they're trying to deal with inflation by raising the interest rates. And Canadians are suffering. They wonder why the price of everything is going up, and whether it's taxes, due to taxes or inflation. It is because of the Liberal mismanagement, how they blow Canadian money. A private corporation, Trans-Canada Pipeline, a pipeline that was going to be built for $7 billion. Well, the Liberals bought it, and now what's the cost? $30 to $40 billion. It's out of control, out of control. They have no control of this rate. This is impacting. And they should actually focus, Madam Speaker, on things like the Canadian Border Services. Other ports, smaller ports, Port of Nanaimo and Port Alberni, want them in there to get more efficiency. Thank you.
Honourable member.